So welcome all to our every other week worship Zoom gathering laboratory piece where we share a little bit of expertise and inspiration and encouragement with one another. If you are new with us, we're glad you're here. We generally will I'll walk through slides from First Presbyterian Church and kind of talk through anything that's been shifting or changing, and then take just a little bit of questions after that, share a little bit about your Zoom Sunday, and then I'm going to invite Heatherlyn. Will go ahead and sing, open us kind of that part up with the song, so you can hear Heatherlyn if you have not heard her before, and then we're just going to have some conversation with Heatherlyn and Jason about their music, their setup. You'll get a sense of the sound, and this may be helpful in some of your work. And then Heatherlyn will close us out. In the middle of that, I'm going to go ahead and post up a link as well, and we'll share in the group that this is a group that we've kind of gathered together, but I also want to honor Heatherlyn and Jason's time. So I'm going to share their Venmo at some point, and if you feel called or moved to help support them, or that'd be great. I'll put it in the Zoom group as well. And you can find Heatherlyn in multiple places online, so it's always under HeatherlynMusic. And Heatherlyn has been a guest musician at our congregation a couple of times, so is also open to that. So, all right, so let me go ahead and share. And we are recording, as for those of you, most of you know that we do record, but I'm gonna record here. All right, so here we go. So Sunday at First Presbyterian Church of Palo Alto was a little weird. We had a few glitches this time, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But nothing that anybody else saw, just kind of on my side. So again, for those of you that haven't been here before, we start at our church opens our kind of leadership door at 9:30. We have about 14 to 15 people that come in at 9:30. We walk through the service, we do sound checks, we pray, take about 5-10 minute break at the end of that time. Our doors open at 9:55, where they get this slide, and folks will then get this. Before this, we have greeters who are chatting or sending messages out to the waiting room. But we do this while our musician plays some opening music. I do welcome and announcements. We often have congregations that will visit with us and hang out with us, and you all are welcome to use us in that regard if you want to take vacation. But we welcome all of our folks. We are slowly turning a congregation that is historically bound by geography, but we're broadening our space. We had 4 countries represented at worship this past Sunday, which was kind of cool. And everybody stayed for our coffee hour afterwards. We got to know folks from Russia, Brazil, and the Philippines. So we change our language around that because we know we're welcoming people in from all over. We also then I share a little bit of how you stay connected, and then we run through some of our announcements that we generally do. Blah blah blah. Coffee hour. We always pitch that at the end of our announcement time. I do a Zoom reminder checklist for everything. I think this is all pretty similar as in the past. We are now posting our sermons on Instagram TV, but other than that, very similar to what we've done before. And then I walk through the service itself. We don't do a bulletin. We felt like, one, that was a lot of work, but two, trying to get brand new visitors to have multiple clicks to get involved and connected. We felt like this would be simpler to just walk through at the beginning. We do a 2-minute centering chime to kind of center our spirits and honor the land. Opening prayer, we sing a hymn. Our hymns are done generally by a person on an organ, and then we have one cantor who stands about 10 feet away from him with the camera, kind of catching both of them. So we have somebody lead us. All right, we do our confession. Dun, dun, dun. Then this is the passing of the peace. It's our first gallery view. So I open this up and everybody gets to see each other, and it's chaotic and lovely. People are saying hello to each other across. The sweetest thing today, though, or this past Sunday, was we have a member here in our congregation whose mother, who's 100 and something, lives in New York, and her son is in Hawaii, and all 3 of them were on at worship today, and you heard the "Hey Grandma" in the middle of this, and it was very sweet. All right, so then we do our reading. we had a guest preacher this Sunday. So then we had a guest preacher who preached on the Dred Scott decision and talked about authority, which was excellent. Excellent. If you get a chance, you can listen to Byron Bland's sermon. They'll be posted later today. Him. And then we do what's called a call to action, which we ask for one thing for people to do every Sunday, and this is new. They used to do this years ago, and we've kind of brought it back, and so we're asking everybody to read the Dred Scott decision this week. Sometimes it's sign a petition, sometimes it's something else. We do offering, and we bring somebody in from a different partner, either locally, nationally, or globally. This is a campus ministry at Stanford that we're partners with, and we brought Terry in to come and share a little bit with us about what's going on. And then we had special music for a violinist in our area who's been connected to the congregation. It was lovely. We do our prayers of the people, and I walk through a little bit about what they do. So they raise their hands. We have a person calling them. And lots of prayers happen in the chat room, which we don't save, but that they happen in the chat room. Then we go to our, I close with prayer and then come back to the slides for our Lord's Prayer, Prayer of Jesus. And then that's it. Then we've been embedding all of our music information now too, just to make sure we're covered. This gets embedded in our YouTube videos as well, our YouTube store, or the information underneath the YouTube videos, just to kind of clear it all. So we've been doing that the last few weeks. And then we go to communion, and then that's it. So there you go. That's First Presbyterians of Palo Alto. All right. So I'm going to just take a few questions, thoughts about anything that happened for you this Sunday. The thing that happened with us that was weird is when I came out of the share slide and went back to Zoom, my screen stayed on the shared slide. Now, fortunately, I had a second monitor and it worked for theirs, but for some reason, my screen wasn't flipping back to Zoom, which was really weird. So I don't know if anybody else had any strange things going on. That was the only thing with the update that was odd or strange for us this Sunday. So, all right, we'll take any questions. Remember, if you're going to speak, even though if you've been here all along, if you would just introduce yourself, your name, where you're serving, and then any question you might have, and then we'll move to Heatherlyn. So, thoughts, questions from this Sunday? Anything happening that is you want to share today? Go ahead and unmute yourself, Jeffrey. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff Spencer, Niles Discovery Church, which is a UCC Disciples congregation in Fremont, California. Two questions for you. One is, how many computers do you have connected up typically on a Sunday? Because I'm wondering how chaotic the passing of the peace is. And the other is, are you going to share your slides? Because I want to take a closer look at how you're doing credits.
Okay. Yeah. I will share the slides in the Zoom group. If you haven't joined that, feel free to join that. So we have between 87 and 110 logged in registered folks. So for accounting, we just add 25% to how many people log in. So it is very chaotic, and it's lovely. I let it go on for maybe 45 seconds, which feels like forever when everybody's just screaming at each other. But you can see people, you can see their eyes going through and they're saying, hey, so-and-so, and all that kind of stuff. It's quite sweet. The best part is I just then mute them all. So it's not as if I have to start playing music to get them to quiet. It's just like mute. So there's a joke that I love to do that, which is not really a joke because it actually is kind of cool.
Yeah, we've got 75 and to do the same thing. So it sounds like it's not quite as chaotic, but almost.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Other questions, thoughts from Sunday that would be interesting for folks to hear or share? You can, Sally, go for it.
So last time we met, you were talking about spotlighting and how it worked. And I tried last week and failed abysmally. So then I looked up every place I could find to learn about how to spotlight. Sort of learned and did it on yesterday, and it went okay. But I feel like I want to learn more about how to use it. And since I have to have at least 3 people on to practice, and I did practice with the Zoom team, but I couldn't find any more trainings besides the one I found on Zoom.
Okay. Can you go ahead and Sally, tell us where you are again?
I'm in Nashua, New Hampshire. Sorry, I put it in the
Great.
chat room.
That's all right. Great. All right. Welcome, Sally, and thank you. So some of the things around this are now you can spotlight multiple people. And so I found making sure you remove the spotlight, though I heard yesterday that some people did the second spotlight and it took over the first still. Um, but you really should be able to highlight multiple people. The quirky thing is that when you come off of spotlight, it leaves everybody in speaker view. So one of the things you have to remind people is that they need to go back to gallery view, just as a way so that they don't. The way the spotlight works is basically just locking people into speaker view, and now you can just lock up to 9 people into speaker view. So you have to remove those up at the top left and remove their spotlight feature, and then tell people to go back to gallery view. So there's about 3 or 4 times in the service I'll say, hey, remember to go back to gallery view. Some people like speaker view, so I invite people to come back to that. If there are other specific questions, you can put them in the group. But go ahead, Sally. Go for it.
Well,
Follow up.
when you said when you come out of, so once I got locked into Spotlight, I couldn't figure out how to get me out of Spotlight. So I ended up staying in Spotlight the whole service, but I was bringing other people in and out of Spotlight. As I brought other people in and out of Spotlight, was everyone else locked into speaker view, or is that only when I end spotlighting altogether?
Right. So when you end it all together, now they have the option to go into gallery view. If there's a spotlight set on anybody, they will not have that option. So were you the host?
Yes. Yes.
So you actually aren't able to put yourself in spotlight as the host.
Yeah,
So
I did.
you probably were you might have been in speaker. You were in spotlight. I'm pretty sure.
Spotlight. I mean, I finally found that what it did is I was trying to take myself out of Spotlight under more in the participants list, but it actually was a separate little banner that appeared on my screen that I had to go over there.
Right.
To get out of it.
The thing I would suggest, and I would suggest for everybody as always, is to have a second monitor, even if it's your phone or something, so you actually can see what they are seeing, because your host. Okay, and so they weren't seeing what you wanted them to see?
They saw what I wanted them to see, but I couldn't. But I wanted to spotlight other people instead of me, but instead I stayed there the whole time.
Oh, interesting.
And then kept adding other people.
Okay.
Them away. Yeah.
Well, let me poke around on that, because if you were the host, I didn't realize you could actually spotlight yourself. So I'll have to play around with that. All right, we'll take a couple. Any more questions? Yeah, go for it, Ralph.
Bruce, yes, I'm from Sausalito Presbyterian Church. I'm actually in Petaluma, but in other words, I'm close,
Yep.
close by. We have not done any live hymns in the service yet. We've used recordings, whether either I've recorded myself on the organ and then recorded someone leading and done it that way, or else we've used recordings of others. When you do live hymns, are you all in the same place? Do you have a separate camera? As someone said, in other words, as your organist or music director,
Yep.
Set themselves up with recording capability?
So the way that we do it is we are for the most part as 100% live as we can. That's one of the commitments that I've made and really like about Zoom. This is what people see on Sunday. I'm at my desk in my office. Microphone is not really shown usually, but and then our organist and a cantor, a musician, they're at the church up in the organ loft, and they've set up a microphone, a laptop, and they're distanced so that Andy's in the background and then Elliot's right up front on the camera. If you go to YouTube and look up First Presbyterian Church Palo Alto, we post all of those, and you can just look and see how we do our hymns. I would look back a couple of Sundays ago. Andy was on his keyboard on vacation this Sunday, so it was a little different. So, but yeah, just look and you'll see how we do it. It's great. I just move the slides. We cut all of our hymns in half. We use a Blue Yeti microphone and original sound, and it sounds as good as we can get it without plugging into the system.
Okay,
Cool.
thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. All right. Any more questions? All right. Heatherlyn would love to. Oh, George, I'm sorry. Wait, I saw George with the hand up, and then we'll go to Heatherlyn.
No problem.
Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah.
George.
Hi, George Lynch, Rancho Mirage, California. We had a situation yesterday where we had a guest poet, and I was one of the co-hosts, and I went to spotlight her, which I was able to do just fine, but I wasn't able to spotlight anyone else after that. I don't know if it's a quirk or what, but is there something different about the co-host ability to spotlight as opposed to the host?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know. Does anybody else have a question? I mean, I know I've been able to do it over and over again, but as the co-host to spotlight, I am a huge control freak, so I have not given that power over to our co-host. So I'm just gonna be real honest. So I don't know. Anybody co-hosts have been able to multi-spotlight? Go ahead. Yep, I saw one hand up down. Go ahead and you can unmute. Your name is not showing up, but Kate, thank you.
Katie Kate, Milwaukee, Oregon. Yeah, our music director does have the ability to spotlight, and he's only the co-host. So. Okay,
and has he spotlighted multiple people? Has he used that feature yet?
Yes.
Okay, there you go, George.
I was going to say I could just try right now as a co-host.
Oh yeah, Jeff, why don't you try and spotlight a couple people? One. Everybody's like, don't pick me. Don't pick me. It's like you're in class. Don't look at the professor. They'll pick you. Two. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I'm seeing two. Okay, awesome.
So, though I'm not seeing, I bet it's there. How to unspotlight, remove spotlight.
Yep. Yeah, and let's just so hopefully, George, that helped. Let's move on though, because I want to make sure we get a lot of Heatherlyn and Jason. So thank you, Heatherlyn, for joining us. And you're spotlighted now, so
cool.
We'd invite you to sing for us.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much for this invitation. This is really fun to be with you all. I was wondering if I should do a hymn for you, because I have like a worship repertoire and a singer-songwriter repertoire, and decided on this one just for something fun. I don't know about you, but I know there's a lot of just heavy things happening in our world, in our country right now. And so I think this song invites us to take a moment to remember the good stuff and the beauty that remains in the midst of all of it, and to allow gratitude to be in the midst. All right, so this is Another Sunset. Another sunset and another sunrise, each and every one is its own surprise. I believe it's good to be alive. All the wonders of this world, every glory unfurled. Take a minute and go outside. Yeah, take a minute and go outside. Walking down the sidewalk on a breezy autumn day, you see all the people. We're all trying to find our way. Mamas with their children, a few dogs with their humans, sending out some good vibrations. Make the world a kinder place for another sunset and another sunrise. Each and every one is its own surprise. I believe it's good to be alive. All the wonders of this world, every glory unfurled. Take a minute and go outside. Yeah, take a minute and go outside. Listen to the children laughing, playing in the streets. Recreate the whole world so every child is this safe and free. Music maker on the corner, trees and flowers join the chorus. Sing us songs of love's redemption, overflowing truth and beauty. For another sunset and another sunrise, each and every one is its own surprise. I believe It's good to be alive. All the wonders of this world, every glory unfurled. Take a minute and go outside. Yeah, yeah, take a minute and go outside. Outside your house, out of your frame of mind. Beyond your culture, your regular reason and rhyme. Out under this big, big, expansive sky. For another sunset and another sunrise. Each and every one is its own surprise. I believe it's good to be alive. All the wonders of this world, every glory unfurled. Take a minute and go outside. Yeah, yeah, take a minute and go outside.
Man, thank you so much.
Yeah,
All
you're
right,
welcome.
y'all.
Thank you.
Let's go back to speaker view if you like, or to gallery view. I did post Heatherlyn's Venmo in the chat as the other place you could go to support Heatherlyn's music songwriting is at Patreon. If you're already on Patreon, you can find, again, HeatherlynMusic is the standard handle everywhere. So can we meet Jason?
Yes, Jason, will you come on screen with me? He's widening the frame so that there's room for him. This is my partner, Jason. And he makes things sound really good.
So I've known Heatherlyn and Jason for I don't know how long it's been. It's been a long time.
Like a decade, I
Very
think.
long
time.
There's like I think we met maybe back in 2009 or something like that.
You were still in Minneapolis, I think,
Mhm.
at Solomon's Porch and doing some things there, and then
Yeah.
travels and everything. And had spent a good 6 weeks. I don't know how long you were out here in California at a church I was serving, where they kind of came in and were artists in residence. So got to know them both really well. We rarely get to see Jason on camera. Hardly ever.
It's not really his favorite.
So thank you, Jason, for doing this.
Hey, you're welcome,
before we
Bruce.
open it up for questions, I know one of the questions folks are going to have is what equipment are you using? How are you making this sound so clear? Like we're right with you. And any other things you want to share with us?
Sure. So, bit of background. Grew up in not necessarily with technology, but with analog technology in the household. My father is a minister, and church budgets were a big part of, how do we do what we want to do? And so my father was the impresario of the church and brought technology and stuff in. And so that's what I grew up in. And that's what we continue today. So the equipment that we have is things that we've used for the last decade plus. And it's just incorporating it with each technology change. So even I'm using an iPad to mix our sound, and it's a Mackie product. It's actually the mixer that we're using is 10 years old. You can still buy it today. It's a 16 channel. They make a 32 channel version of that. But that's what we take on the road with us. It makes things all portable. All our gates, compressors, EQs is in there. And it's the same piece of equipment that we use to mix our church services in as well. And that's kind of between Heatherlyn and I, we are the impresarios for our little church up in Longmont, Colorado. So that is one piece of equipment, is we're using an actual mixer to mix our sound. And I know with live streaming, utilizing USB powered microphones is the simplest and easy thing to plug and play right into your computer. What I'm using to connect all of our Mackie mixer is another Mackie product, but there's many other manufacturers out there, and it's a USB audio interface. So I'm just taking the left and right channel out of our soundboard and plugging that into the USB audio interface. And it's the same type of audio interface that you would use to do home recording with. And I think it's out of that there's better clarity of the audio signal that's coming into the computer versus just using a USB audio microphone. So that's just a little kind I have the preference to brand is just, that's what I've used for the last decade. It's been reliable. And I know we're hitting any digital technology, anything with like 5 to 7 years, you're beginning to hit its lifespan. And, but I've been satisfied with these because things have, well, we've outgrown one piece of equipment that was a decade old, and it was just because of, as the hardware and software to the iMac, it no longer would communicate with one another. But that's why we upgraded. So our microphones are just standard, probably microphones that you have at your church lying around. XLR cables going right into the soundboard. I think there's something about that that brings about clarity. And as well as there's the microphones have what's called like a proximity effect. So it makes you sound like you smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day if you get nice and close. And Heatherlyn is using a larger diaphragm microphone, cardioid pattern, if that means anything to you guys. But all of these are just standard pieces of equipment you probably have lying around at church. And it's just, how do you plug them all together and get them into your computer?
Yeah. The Onyx producer interface might be a newer thing that wouldn't necessarily be.
Yeah, that's the USB. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. So I'm going to open it up. So I'll say our congregation, when you first came, I think we had you maybe at our first online service. I can't even remember. It was early on, early March.
Yeah, I think it was the first time you did music.
All right.
And just
yeah,
the progression of, yeah.
And we had tried some things, and I could almost see people's eyes open up when you started playing. It was like, oh, like they obviously know what they're doing. Like it was clearly that the clarity was so much different. So
yeah, and it's possible.
Yeah, and it is possible, correct.
Yeah.
And our folks have really enjoyed having you part of that. So I'm going to open up for questions now. So if you could use your blue hand raise, that would be helpful. Down in your participants list, just hit the blue hand raise, and let's take some questions for Heatherlyn and Jason. So feel free. Here we go. Questions, thoughts, comments. You are not this silent, people. Jeff Spencer, I see your hand waving.
Yeah, as a co-host, I can't raise my hand.
That's right.
So I'm wondering, Jason and Heatherlyn, if you would take a photograph of some of your stuff to help those of us who don't speak sound geek.
Yeah, totally.
And if you could send that to Bruce, and Bruce could post that in the Zoom group, that would be helpful for us to try to translate what you said to the people.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, too, with that is maybe a little diagram of the signal flow.
Yeah.
You know, much like, I think that would, because again, to me, the I can send you a picture of that, but I think it's more of the signal flow, so that then I think what's in your church closets right now that you'd be typically using on a Sunday morning. How can you bring those out of the closet and begin to connect all that together in a simplified way? So I think a diagram would be helpful. So thanks for your question.
Great. That'd be great. Thank you. And I will make sure we share that out to folks. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Other questions for Heatherlyn and Jason?
I'm glad you said that, Jeff, because I was tempted to like pick up this little piece of equipment and show it to you, but then that would mess all the cables up. So, so photos are a much better idea.
All right. I'm seeing John Schiffel. You want to go ahead and unmute yourself and introduce yourself and ask a question?
John from Durango. Jason, do you ever have a problem where all of your sound is coming out of just the left channel? The participants are telling you, hey, I only hear you out of the left channel.
Sure. So that would be, that could happen for us. What I've done is I've taken the left, right out of the soundboard. Well, actually, I'm doing a little bit different here. I'm just taking an aux send. I'm looking at the soundboard right now. So I'm taking an aux send. So it's just a mono signal. And I have a Y cable going into the USB interface, because the USB interface is channel 1, channel 2, which is left, right. but I have that mono signal going into both 1 and 2. So there's no getting just left channel only.
Sounds like the Y cable is an important piece of hardware.
Yeah. Yep.
Great. Thank you. I see Marcia. Go for it.
So I have an existing church sound system and I'm trying to hook it up for hybrid worship. Maybe that's appropriate or not appropriate for this discussion. So we actually have people in the congregation and I want to be able to show video with sound in the congregation while I am also broadcasting to Zoom. Do you think that interface is the way to go for, right now I have a monitor out into my desktop computer for the sound setup, but I don't have something that goes back into the sound system.
Yeah, I'd have to think through again that this gets back to like signal flow.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to merge all of these technologies together, and that you hit kind of the limitation of each software. And so that's something that even in our congregation that we're at, as we begin to come back together, there's things that we've done online that we want to continue to do live. But then how do we incorporate what we do in person to share that with those who are joining us online? And now that's where we begin to bump into the limitations. And so I don't have a specific answer to your question, but
we're working on setting up a virtual choir. And so we want to be able to broadcast the virtual choir to the in-person congregation. I can share a screen to do that to the Zoom broadcast, but to be able to share it in the congregation as well, I'm not techie enough quite to pull it off just yet.
Yeah, a particular software that we Heatherlyn uses it's called Story Dwelling. It's a little talk show that we do, but they are able to. It's called Ecamm Live, and you're able to bring in multiple video sources and mix that from the computer and send that to Zoom.
Yeah, except that Ecamm Live is just Mac. And
yeah, that's correct. Yeah, and they probably don't have any plans to become PC based.
Yeah.
Yep.
Apple does not play well with others.
No, and that there again we hit the limitation. But a particular resource you may want to check out is Live Streaming Pros. Let me grab my phone. I had them logged up. Excuse me.
All right. Thank you, Marcia. I think that's going to be something that we're all going to be working on, trying to figure out that hybrid. How do you really not make it? We're doing the real service here at the church and the rest of you are watching versus we're all now in this kind of big, huge thing. I mean, we will continue as more of you are moving towards that. We'll continue to have those conversations. Our group is starting to begin to think about that. And I will tell you, one of the things people have said is, we should just reconfigure the pews. And I'm like, yes, we should. Nice. There we go. Like, when else are they like, let's just reconfigure the pews? I'm like, what a good idea. All right. Other questions. Let's throw out Heatherlyn and Jason. Any others? We're going to use your blue hand. You have any? Let me ask. I do have a question. So, Heatherlyn, what is it for you? And maybe I guess this is both questions. What are you doing on your end in terms of Zoom and any other pieces? If we have musicians, what do we need to tell them about getting set up? And if they're new to this, are there settings? Are there, I don't know, practices that are helpful to have you sound as clear as you do?
Yeah, I think I might have some response to that. One little thing on Zoom is up in the upper left-hand corner, there's this turn on original sound thing and a little arrow. And so we always make sure that's set to our Onyx producer, which is the interface that Jason spoke about. So that's one little detail that helps. I feel like whenever I Zoom for a church service, I'm always being really mindful of the mutes, I have like multiple mutes. So I have like my effects that need to be off when I'm talking, but turn them on when I'm singing. I have my guitar pedal mute, so often I'm just trying to prepare, like to have most things unmuted and then just unmute Zoom when it's my turn, little things like that. I wonder if there's anything else that.
Yeah. So in this is where the soundboard is very helpful, and the way that I'm able to save our settings, so that when I'm not able to join Heatherlyn, she's able to hit a couple of buttons and the previous settings are all saved. And so she's in the ballpark of where she needs to be. And one of the things that we do is, this goes back to like radio broadcasting days, where I'm trying to give my audience the hottest signal possible. And so I'm compressing my output. And so, and then finding that ceiling so that if we were to laugh loudly, it's not going to distort any of our signal flow and on your end. But my goal of that is keeping in mind that the participants, or I call them, or audience or viewers or however, are most likely from their computer or are using mobile devices and using their earbuds to listen in. And I want to be able, instead of having them have to turn their volume all the way up, I want them to be able to turn their volume down a couple of notches. So it's not, because it's like when Heatherlyn gets talking really softly, it's hard to hear her. If it, but because I have it, compressed, it kind of sits in a certain range audio wise. And I think that's part 2 of presence and clarity. So I think that's a helpful setting, as well as I do use gate as well on the microphone. Again, all of this is in the mixer so that background noise isn't picked up. We have housemates walking around right upstairs. The kitchen is right there. And so having the gate on, which is a certain threshold in which the microphone will allow audio through. And then when Heatherlyn just stops singing, it automatically closes and you don't hear the footsteps upstairs. I think that helps clean up the sound. So background noise.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think my best recommendation to any musician is to get a Jason.
Which I would say you all have that. I would call it a natural resource in your communities right now. People who have experience, that if they can think back, how do I incorporate that experience into this situation, time and place we find ourselves?
You're being very humble, Jason. But yes, if we could all get a Jason, it would be wonderful. Jeff Spencer did put in the chat how you want to make sure that you have to allow people to turn on that original sound. So I think most of us have probably done that at this point. But if that's not showing up for you, that is one thing. If you're just getting into bringing in live music, make sure that you, as the hosts, Zoom, allow folks to choose original sound, because you don't want other people doing it. You only want your musicians doing it. Otherwise, it gets a little funky. I'm seeing Kathy with a hand up. Go for it.
Wondering whether you have done any work with other instrumentation than just the guitar. One of the pieces that we've heard conversation about is piano not sounding right, or other kinds of instrumentation. And I'm wondering whether you have done any experimentation with anything other than guitar.
Yeah. So again, this is where the benefit of using, for us, a 16-channel mixer and bringing those, all of those, having each instrument mic'd, and then being able to mix that signal together before I share that with others. This setup that we use here, we use with our community, and it's the exact same stuff. And so when we're with our bass player, vocalist, cajon player, I'm mixing all of that into before the viewer hears it. So I think if you're in a room trying to use one microphone, you may not get the sound that you're desiring if you're trying to rely on that one microphone to pick up the sound from the room.
So you're suggesting if there's an acoustic piano to mic the piano into the mix, and if it's a keyboard, then it would be an XLR. Or something like that.
DI and do it. Yep.
Yeah.
Can you? We've noticed we've switched to mics. I don't know the language. The narrow pointing one or the wide, right? So
Sure.
is your that is everybody's like Bruce is so technical. Does that actually help? Can you talk about microphones, because that helped with both our organ and our piano, and when we've just done that as a single instrument.
So
Nice.
Bruce, just to understand, so polar pattern of the microphone. Heatherlyn is using what is called a cardioid.
Is that like it actually does this?
It looks like a heart pattern to her, and
I don't know which direction it is, if it's this.
Yeah, and because it's a larger diaphragm on it, it's gonna it does pick up more room noise, and I'm using a super cardioid. And so its pattern is tighter to here. If I go off axis, immediately you can hear the change of my voice there. Those are the two basic polar patterns. So cardioid, super cardioid. So cardioid is going to be a little bit wider, but it's not going to be able to pick up the distance, if you step away. Whereas for me, I step away, there's still some depth of clarity. But if I go off axis, if Heatherlyn goes off axis on her microphone because of that heart pattern, she's still picked up. There's omnidirectional, which would be if you are in your room, in your sanctuary, that would probably pick up, equal distance all the way around the microphone. So omni being kind of a big circular. And there's various other different polar patterns, but those would probably be your three right there. Your lavalier clip-on mics are either cardioid or omni.
So it doesn't say skinny or wide. Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're telling me?
Those are technical terms too you could use. I got a skinny, she's got a wide.
I always tell them, like, go use the mic that does this.
Yeah, the wider, go wide. Yeah, that is true. Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah, definitely polar pattern.
So a piano mic should be which one?
I would use a cardioid, and I would either go in kind of the mid-range, kind of the C note on the piano. If you're doing just an upright piano, I'd probably put it like to a foot, 2 feet away from the back of the piano. And just because that's where if I had two microphones, I'd probably open up the top of the upright piano, and I would use two microphones kind of to get the high and the low of that. In our setting that we were in previous to COVID, we were using we had a baby grand piano, and we had different musicians playing different styles, and that I had the piano completely closed. We were in a Presbyterian church setting, and they were playing more of a pop style piano than a classical piano. So I had the piano closed and actually put two microphones closer to the hammers of the piano, and just two microphones there. I don't know if that's, so it's a lot of experimenting too. It's not a simple,
right.
This is where the artistry, creativity to the technical.
Other questions. We're going to go another 5 or 6 minutes, and then would love to hear Heatherlyn again. I will say that as you're thinking about questions, I think this particular gathering, once I record it and post it, this is the one you have your sound people listen to give them a little bit. And it sounds like the mixer is the piece that I bet most of us are missing. Is my guess is that piece of equipment is the one that most of us don't have sitting on our desk in our office, but others in our congregations or in the area might have. That's what I'm getting so far. Ralph, I saw your hand raised. Go for it.
On the same question, I have an audio interface in my room where I am now, and a MIDI keyboard, the Kurzweil has a lot of good pianos in it. Could I connect the keyboard then to the interface which acts as MIDI as well, and have that run through a software mixer and then come out from the audio interface and feed into Zoom and do it that way without using a physical mixer?
Yeah, I believe that. Yes, we have not done that on our end, but we do have a program called Loopback. And Loopback is so Loopback, Loopback. That's kind of like it acts as the internal, it's like a patch cable connecting different pieces of software together within your computer to get the signal to route through your from your USB audio interface, or if it's MIDI, bringing that into the computer. But you want to bring that into your recording software. Let's say GarageBand. We're on a could simply be, but you want to bring that signal into GarageBand. But then you want to send GarageBand into Zoom. Loopback is the patch cable to make all that happen. You can't do that GarageBand on its own right to Zoom. You need something to patch it together. So that's.
Thank you.
This is awesome. There's so much beautiful nerdiness going on right now. That's it's awesome. I do not understand most of it, but I get it in concept. All right. Other questions. We'll take maybe one or two more if there's any questions or thoughts from folks. All right. Well, I so much appreciate the two of you being with us today. So this is recorded. I'll post this later. We'll make sure that I'll share some links to connect with Heatherlyn. Again, if you are interested in having Heatherlyn lead music and worship, I full recommendation from First Press Palo Alto. She's been with us a couple of times, and it's been thoroughly enjoyable both times, and I will say, not only musically gifted and artistry and all that, but theologically, culturally, Heatherlyn it fits right in where our congregation is, and is helping to kind of expand our understanding of who the body is and faith and spirituality. And I thoroughly trust music's lyrics, all of that. So there's no pressure, Heatherlyn, but that I would say that it is it's been great. I have zero reservations about this. So if any of you are looking for music, folks, make sure you connect. And so I would invite Heatherlyn, if you would sing us one last song, and then we'll come back real quick, and then we'll be done.
Yeah, thanks so much for your kind words. I've actually just really thoroughly delighted in joining your community as well. And I appreciate you taking note of the theology piece, because I feel like it's a sacred task when you consider the words you're inviting people to put in their mouths, right? And so I am kind of always working on that to decenter whiteness and heteronormativity and patriarchy, and there's a lot there. So cheers to you all for rising up, meeting the times, meeting the changes. I'm sure none of us thought we would be leading community through a pandemic, but here we are, right? And so bless you for being here and being willing to do it. And as we go on our way today, I'll leave you with this song of blessing. So I invite you to receive it. And if it helps you to take a deep breath, or open your hands, or however you might like to position your body to be a little bit more comfortable and receptive to receiving these words of life, I pray they may be life to you. Peace ever, joy ever following you. Light ever, love ever radiating through. faith ever nourishing you, life ever, breath ever strengthening you. And everywhere you go, may you always be home. And everyone you meet be messengers of peace. Let your light shine through, and your heart ever be true. Move in grace and gratitude, and walk in wisdom, sharing all that's good. Peace ever, joy ever following you, light ever, love ever radiating through. And everywhere you go, may you always be home. And everyone you meet be messengers of peace. May we choose courageously. May we hope defiantly. May we love outrageously, and walk on lightly in humility. May we choose courageously. May we hope defiantly. May we love outrageously, and walk on lightly in humility. Beauty and laughter ever filling you, friendship, affection surrounding you.
Amen and amen. Thank you, Heatherlyn, for joining us today. And Jason, so lovely to have you both with us. So
Lovely to be
generally
with you. Thank you.
great human beings, y'all. Thank you, the rest of you, for being with us today. I will make sure that I get this one posted as quickly as possible, and then share that link out in the Zoom group. Also, if you are in the Zoom group, you'll notice we're going to try to, the group has gotten really big, which is great. Also getting pretty scattered all over the place with topics. And so we're going to try to do some things I've seen in some other groups I'm part of, where we're going to do monthly posts where folks can share things that are a little bit outside of the Zoom specific stuff, so that we kind of get those adjacent topics, but not have them scattered so much within the thread. So watch out for that. That'll start up in the next couple of days. We'll do October events, October stuff. So we can kind of clean that up a bit. Thank you all for participating today. Again, when I post the stuff, I'll have Heatherlyn's Venmo and Patreon and all of that, so you can make sure you connect and offer any gifts you can. So again, thank you all. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Take care.